If you're new to flying Southwest Airlines, this video is going to cover everything you need to know from the time you book your Southwest ticket all the way through the boarding process. I'll show you the different ways you could check in for your flight, how to read your boarding pass, the types of luggage you could bring on your flight, and the unique way that Southwest does their boarding process. Let's go.
Dream vacations start here.
So I've actually made this video for Angel Flight customers. If you're not familiar with Angel Flight, they're a nonprofit organization who help arrange charitable flights to those in need of medical care or for other humanitarian purposes. Southwest Airlines has partnered with them, so if you're an Angel Flight customer, welcome. But even if you're not, this video will be helpful if you're new to flying Southwest Airlines. So what I've actually have done is book myself a Southwest Airlines flight, and I'm going to walk you through step by step the entire process so that you can visually see how the entire process works. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. After I book my flight, I'll receive a confirmation email from Southwest containing the details of my flight. It'll look just like this. The important thing to note is your confirmation number, which is conveniently located in the subject line in the email, as well as in the body of the email, highlighted in bold green. You'll need the confirmation number later to be able to access your reservation and to be able to check in for your flight, so make sure you keep this number handy. I would recommend you write it down or forward it to another email as a backup, just in case you accidentally delete this email. Let's now talk about luggage. Now, there are three types of luggage that you can take with you on the plane: check luggage, carry-on luggage, and a personal item bag. Let's discuss what each of these are. Let's start with carry-on luggage. Carry-on luggage is simply luggage that you can carry on the plane with you, and you will store them in an overhead bin compartment on the airplane. You're allowed one carry-on luggage per passenger on the plane. Now, there is a size requirement for a carry-on, but not a weight requirement. And the good news is that Southwest has one of the highest size requirements for a carry-on compared to other airlines, and that is because they fly one type of airplane, which is the Boeing 737. The size requirement for a carry-on on Southwest Airlines is 24 by 16 by 10 inches. This includes the wheels and the handle of the carry-on. The important thing to note about carry-on luggage is what you're allowed to pack in them. The rule you'll need to know is the 3-1-1 rule. The rule states that for every liquid, gel, paste, and aerosol that you want to carry, they have to be in 3.4 ounce containers or less, and they have to fit in one clear quart size bag, and you are limited to one bag per passenger. If you want to be able to carry more than the rule allows, then you can put them in a check bag, which is the next luggage type I will cover. A check bag will be the largest bag that you can bring with you. It'll be too large to fit in the overhead bins on the airplane, so they must be stored in the airplane's luggage hold area located beneath the airplane. Southwest allows 2 free check bags per person. You're allowed to check more than that, but Southwest will charge $125 per bag after the first 2. The size and weight limit for a check bag is 62 total inches, and the weight limit is 50 pounds. If you go over those limits, then you are subject to additional fees. I'll cover how the process works for checking a bag in a few minutes, but for packing purposes, you're allowed to bring full-size bottles of shampoo and body wash and other liquids, gels and paste and aerosols if you wish to pack them. One of the items that you are prohibited from packing in a check bag would be lithium batteries. Those would have to be packed in your carry-on. Now, I know I just gave you a general guideline about what can and cannot be packed in each luggage type, but I do have a number of videos that go into much greater detail and even specific items that can be packed, and I'll have all those resources listed in the show notes for you to check out. So let's now go over the last luggage type, which is the personal item bag. This can be a purse, a backpack, a tote, a laptop bag, really any bag that is small enough to be able to fit under the airplane seat in front of you. Like the carry-on bag, you're only allowed one personal item bag per passenger on the airplane. As a general guideline, the size of a personal item bag on a Southwest Airlines flight needs to be 16.5 by 13.5 by 8 inches in size or less. And the same restrictions apply to a personal item bag as they do in a carry-on bag. But just remember, you can only take one quart-sized bag of liquids with you, so either choose to pack it in your carry-on or personal item bag. Let's go ahead and move on to the next step in the process, which is how to check in for your flight. There are several ways you can do this. Number 1, you can check in on the airline's website. Number 2, you can check in at the airport. And number 3, you can check in using the Southwest Airlines app, which in my opinion is the best way to check in. Let me walk you through each of the check-in options. Let's start with the app. The app is free to download, and the reason I like using the app is because not only can you check in easily from the app, but you also receive important notifications about your flight, and you'll also be able to get a digital boarding pass on your phone that can be scanned to board your flight. Now, the one thing that Southwest does that is different than any other airline is their boarding process. Southwest does not have assigned seats. They instead have open seating. So the first people to board the plane get their choice of seats. The way Southwest determines the order of who boards is by the time they check in for their flight. Because of this, it is very important that you check in right when check-in opens, which is 24 hours before your scheduled departure, unless you really don't care where you end up sitting. But even so, if you end up being one of the last people to check in for the flight, there is a chance the flight will be oversold, which means you may end up without a seat and will be forced to get bumped to the next available flight. So it really is in your best interest to check in right at 24 hours before departure to get the best boarding position. Now, Southwest does offer what they call an early bird check-in for an extra fee, which is usually between $15 to $25 per flight per passenger. And what that will do is check you in automatically 36 hours before departure, which will essentially give you a much better boarding position. And I'll explain the boarding process in more detail a little bit later on, but let me go ahead and show you the different ways you can check in for your flight. If you're using the app, look to the bottom of your screen to find the check-in button. Just tap on that, and if your confirmation number and name are not already pre-populated for you, you'll enter that information here and tap Retrieve Reservation. It'll then bring up your book flights, which in my case is my flight heading to Boston. Now I do have a stop on the way to Boston, which is a stop in Baltimore. Tapping the check-in button will check me in for both flights, so I don't need to worry about doing two check-ins unless each flight was booked separately and you have two confirmation numbers, in which case you would have to check in for each flight. It'll then give me a confirmation at the top that I'm all checked in. A new thing that Southwest has started doing is allowing you to digitally check in your bags. I'll explain what this is in just a minute, but if I scroll down just a little bit, you can see I now have a boarding position for each of my flights. A34 for the first flight and A42 for the second flight. And then I can view my digital boarding pass for each flight by tapping the boarding pass button. It'll give me this list of restricted, prohibited, hazardous materials that I should be aware of. Click continue, and then here's what the digital pass will look like. This is what will need to be scanned at the time of boarding. You'll notice the gate number at the top. This is the location of where you will board your flight. Just know that gates can change, and if there's a gate change, the gate number on your boarding pass will also change, which is another benefit of using a digital boarding pass. You will also receive a notification from the app as long as you have allowed the app to send you notifications of any gate changes, delays, cancellations, or any other important information impacting your flight. You also notice above the barcode a couple of smaller boxes which say TSA Pre with a green check mark, and then the other box that says Priority/Express Lanes. TSA PreCheck is a program that you can enroll in that essentially gives you a fast pass through TSA security. I'm not going to cover the details of the program, but if you want more information about it, I have a whole video on TSA PreCheck, which will be linked down in the show notes. The other box labeled Priority/Express Lanes means you have access to a much shorter line to get through security. It's mostly associated with TSA PreCheck, but it could also be awarded based on your status with the airline if you are a frequent flyer member. A moment ago, I mentioned that Southwest just rolled out the option to digitally check your bags. What this means is that you can now indicate ahead of time how many bags you plan to check on your flights. Before, you can only do this at the airport. Now you can select ahead of time the number of bags you plan to check in, which will save you some time at the airport. This is not a final number. You can add or remove the number of bags at the airport kiosk once you arrive at the airport. And I'll cover how to use the kiosk a little bit later. Just make sure you check in your bags at the airport at least 45 minutes before departure. Let's now cover how to check in for your Southwest flight using Southwest Airlines website. You'll just go to southwest.com, and once on the home screen, you'll see towards the middle of the screen the check-in button. You'll click that button and enter your confirmation number, which you can find located on the email you received from Southwest after booking your flight. You'll then enter your first and last name and click check in. Just remember, you can't check in for your flight until 24 hours before your scheduled departure time, but be sure to check in right at that 24-hour mark to receive the best boarding position. If you receive a message that check-in is unavailable, then just try again, as the time you have versus the time Southwest has may not be exactly in sync. Once you click check-in, there will be a review page to make sure everything looks correct and give you the opportunity to make any changes. If everything looks good, click the check-in button and you will receive a confirmation that you have checked in. It will then give you the option to digitally check your bags, which I covered earlier, and you'll see your 3 different options to receive your boarding pass. You can print them. If you have access to a printer, you can have your boarding pass emailed to you or even by text message. A printed boarding pass will look like this. You'll see your boarding position on the boarding pass as well as your flight and confirmation numbers. Because gate numbers change frequently, Southwest does not usually display a gate number on a printed boarding pass. Instead, it will say check the monitors, which I'll show you how to do in the next section. If you choose to have your boarding pass emailed to you, it'll look like this, which looks very similar to a digital boarding pass. You can save this to your phone, and then at the time of boarding, the gate agent will scan the barcode that you see in the middle of the boarding pass. If you choose to receive your boarding pass by text, it'll send you a link that you'll click on to receive your digital boarding pass. If you're opting for a printed or an email boarding pass and want to receive notifications about your flight in regards to gate changes or delays, then go on Southwest homepage and select Flight, then Manage Reservation. Enter your confirmation number and name, and then once your reservation is pulled up, select Day of Contact Information and enter either your phone number to receive text message updates about your flight or your email address. Now that you have checked in for your flight, let's move on to the next step in the process, which is to prepare to go to the airport. The two most important things that you will need to take with you to the airport in order to get through security and board your flight are your ID and your boarding pass. Now, if you happen to forget your boarding pass, you can always print it out at the airport, but if you forget your ID, then it can be a problem. Now, there is a process you can go through with the TSA if you lose or forget your ID. Check out the show notes if you fall in that situation, but for the ID itself, it needs to be a government-issued photo ID, like your driver's license, a state ID, or even a passport. Now, depending on when you're watching this video, your ID may need to be Real ID compliant. What is Real ID? It's a new security standard on government-issued IDs that will become necessary to have in order to fly on a domestic flight in the U.S. Now, if you have a passport by default is already Real ID compliant, so you could just use that. It's very possible that your driver's license or state ID is already Real ID compliant, and the way you can tell is if you have a star on your ID. If you don't, then you may still be able to use your existing ID. The deadline to have a Real ID to be able to fly is currently May 7th, 2025. Now, this deadline has been pushed back many times already, so again, make sure you check out the show notes to see the most current information about Real ID. And if your license is up for renewal soon, you might want to consider upgrading your ID to a Real ID. In addition to having your ID and boarding pass ready for your flight, you might also require special assistance at the airport if you're in need of a wheelchair or have a disability. For those of you who have flights arranged by Angel Flight, make sure you inform them if you have wheelchair needs or are bringing medical equipment, as they can arrange services for you when they book your flights. For the rest of you not connected with Angel Flight, you can request assistance on the Southwest Airlines website by clicking Flight from the home page and then clicking Manage Reservations. Here you will enter your confirmation number and your first and last name. And then under your name, you will see a link for special assistance. Click on the link and here you can request the assistance you need. Click the information button next to it to learn more information about each category. Now, once you have requested assistance, you will still need to inform a Southwest agent once you arrive at the airport, either at the departures area, just outside the entrance to the airport, or at the Southwest check-in counter. If you're carrying medical equipment and are wondering how the TSA handles the security process for these items, I have a full video that covers what you need to do for the most common medical devices and for medication. I'll have that video linked down in the show notes for you to view. Let's now go on to the next section, which is arriving at the airport. A common question I get asked a lot is how early do I need to arrive at the airport? If you're new to flying and new to the airport experience, I would recommend getting to the airport at least 2 hours early, especially if you're going to be checking bags. Now, if you're an experienced traveler but just new to Southwest Airlines, just use the normal time you would normally go to the airport. If you're not checking bags and have already checked in online and received your boarding pass, you can actually go straight to the security lines. However, if you do need to check bags, here's how that process works. Once you arrive at the airport, you want to be dropped off at the departure section of the airport and then look for the Southwest sign. This will ensure you're being dropped off near the Southwest check-in counters. Once inside, locate the Southwest check-in area and go to one of the kiosks. Once at the kiosk, touch the screen to begin. You have 3 choices. Enter your confirmation number, swipe the credit card you used to purchase your ticket, or scan your boarding pass. Using one of these methods will pull up your reservation. For my flight, I'm just going to enter my confirmation number. Once I do that, it'll give me a notice and a list of items that are prohibited on my flight. I will tap Acknowledge. My reservation will now pull up. Now, if you remember, I already selected the number of bags I plan to check when I checked in for my flight online. Here I can confirm or change the number of bags. I can also print my boarding pass for both of my flights, or I can choose to change my flights. There's no fee to change a flight, but you will have to pay the difference in fare price, if any. In my case, I'm just going to select the Confirm/Edit Bags and Get Bag Tags button. I'll tap Next. It'll then ask if I need to change the number of bags I'm bringing, which I selected as 1 when I did the online check-in. I don't need to change the number of bags, so I'll just tap Next. It will now print a bag tag for me. I will then click Next and it will tell me to proceed to gate A5. I will then tap Finish. This will clear my reservation and return it to the home screen for the next person to use. Now that I have my bag tag, I will peel off the paper backing on it and fold it around the handle of my bag. Not the handle that moves up and down, but the fixed handle. I also want to make sure my bag tag indicates that it's going to my final destination, which is Boston, highlighted at the top in bold. And then my connecting flight in Baltimore will be displayed beneath it. If it says something different, then I'll need to check with a Southwest employee to verify my flights. The next step is now to drop off your bag at the bag drop. Here you'll need to present your ID to a Southwest agent who will verify that the name on your bag tag matches your ID. Once my ID has been verified, the Southwest agent will load my bag on a belt that will be loaded onto the plane I'm flying on. If you have a connecting flight like I do, you won't need to worry about collecting your bag at the connecting airport. Your bag will automatically be loaded onto the next flight for you. Once you have done this, you're now ready to go through security. In this video, I'm not going to go through the whole security process. Instead, I'm going to link some other videos that I have made that will go through in much greater detail about the security process. Those videos will be linked down in the show notes, so be sure to check those out. What I am going to do is give you a general overview about what to expect. So let's start with the security lines. Most of you watching this video will go through the line called standard passengers. This will also probably be the longest of the available lines you can go through. The other line option is for TSA pre-check passengers. I mentioned this program earlier, and this is a program that I'm enrolled in. If you plan to fly more than a couple times a year, I think it's worth getting it. Again, more information about the program are in the show notes. The other line option is if you have enrolled in a program called Clear. This will allow you to cut straight to the front of the security lines, even ahead of TSA pre-check members. If you don't have pre-check, then you will still have to go through the standard security process. But if you have both Clear and TSA pre-check, then not only do you get to go straight to the front of the line, but the security process will go much more quickly if you have TSA pre-check as well. Most airports now just require your ID to get through security, and more airports are getting upgraded X-ray scanners for luggage, which has been the case for my home airport recently. Before the upgrade, we had to remove any electronics we were carrying in our bags, but now with the upgraded scanners, that is no longer a requirement, which makes for a quicker security line. If your airport hasn't been upgraded yet, you'll be asked to remove any electronics larger than your cell phone out of your bag and place it in a bin, as well as your quart-sized bag of liquids. Once you are through security, you can double-check the departure screens, which are located throughout the airport, to make sure your gate hasn't changed if you either didn't sign up for notifications or don't have the Southwest app. Once you have verified your gate, you can make your way there. Let's now talk about the Southwest boarding process. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, Southwest has a very different boarding process than any other airline in the US. Instead of assigned seats, Southwest has open seating, which means the first people to board the plane get their choice of seats. There are 3 boarding groups: A group, B group, and C group. Each group has 60 positions. A group will board first, followed by B and C. In my case, I'm in the A group, and my position number is 34. So essentially, I'll be the 34th person to board the plane. Southwest will start the boarding process 30 minutes before departure. So for me, my first flight to Baltimore is scheduled to depart at 12:30 p.m., and I can expect the boarding process to begin at 12 noon. And this is also indicated on my boarding pass as well. When it comes time to line up, you'll see signs indicating where you need to line up. A1 through 30 will be on the left side, and A31 through 60 will line up on the right side. There will also be numbered posts along the way to show you where in the line you should be. You will probably encounter people in the line asking you what your number is, which is your boarding position. This is so they know where in the line they should be in. Most of the time, if there are a couple of people who have a higher number than me that are in front of me, I don't usually care that much. Whether I'm the 34th person to board or the 37th person to board, it won't make much of a difference. It will make more of a difference if you're one of the last people to board, because then you're getting whatever is left over for seats. Once the A group has boarded, then the process will repeat itself with the B group and then the C group. So I know I just covered a lot of information, and you're probably experiencing some information overload right now. And that's why I purposely have this video broken down into sections so that no matter where you're at in the process, you can just jump to that section. There'll be timestamps in the show notes for each section, or you can just hover over the scroll bar to jump to the section you need. Again, there'll be a bunch of resources for you down in the show notes, including other helpful videos. And if you have any questions about anything I covered today, make sure you post those questions down in the comment section, and I'll make sure to answer them. A special thank you to Angel Flight and for the work that you're doing in providing free flights to help others in need. It was a privilege and honor to make this video for you and for the people you're helping. If you are watching this video and you want to learn more about the work Angel Flight is doing, head to angelflightcentral.org. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it was helpful to you, and I hope to catch you again in a future video.